morning. Happy Saturday. It's wonderful to see all of our Democrats here, enthused, awake on a Saturday morning for our November 2018 endorsement interviews. I really want to thank everyone for showing up today and for our amazing Executive Director, Adam Mehis, for organizing all of this. It's no small feat. So I just want to go over some basics today, and then I want to bring up Supervisor or DCCC member Sophie Maxwell to share a few words. Today we will be hearing from candidates and measures. We're going to start off with candidates, and then at the end of the day we're going to do some of the local propositions. We have grouped each of the sections of today by race. So the District 2 Supervisor, District 4 Supervisor, or Bar Forward, to make it more organized. And you can check that out, if you're here today, you can check that out on the table in the back if you want to look at the schedule. And for those of you at home, I think we sent it out to the mail list, or we can also post it. We can post a schedule as well, a tentative schedule. And the format for today's candidates will get to speak, share a few words, and then we'll open up for Q&A. The way that the Q&A will work is if DCCC members are here today, they will get priority. And then if there's enough time left, we'll open up to anyone that's actually here today. So you'll be able to ask some questions of our candidates. And for some housekeeping, restrooms are downstairs. I believe there's a code, but there is a code on the back here. So if you need to use a restroom, you can check that on the back. We have some light refreshments in the back as well, and we will have a lunch break as well as some breaks throughout the day, so everyone can take a bite to eat or take a stretch or stroll and come on back. And I think that's pretty much it for the format for today. So let me invite DCCC member Sophie Maxwell.
I really don't need to come up. I just wanted to thank all the children who are here. And we owe them a lot because they're here all the time. And this is just the beginning. So I just want to everybody acknowledge our kids and thank all the mothers for continuing to be kind, even though, and also I want to thank all the club members who are here from our clubs. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge our interns today who also helped to put together this event together. Thank you. All right, so without further ado, the first candidate up is our public defender, Jeff Adachi.
Thank you very much. What a great sound system. I feel like I just sang a song. My name is Jeff Adachi. I've served as a public defender for the last 16 years. I've been a public defender for 32 years. Grew up in Sacramento, son of an auto mechanic and lab technician. I went to City College for 2 years, went to Berkeley. It was much easier to get into it back in those days. And then became involved in a case of a man who was on death row for a crime he didn't commit. I worked on this case, not as a lawyer, but as an organizer for 4 years, and we won his freedom. And that cemented my desire, along with my parents' experience, my grandparents' experience of being interned with 120,000 of the Japanese Americans to become a public defender. I've tried over 150 jury trials, from misdemeanors to death penalty cases. I've handled 3,000 criminal cases. I've served as chief attorney, overseeing the staff for 3 years, and as public defender, I oversee a staff of 104 attorneys and 88 support staff that provides representation to over 20,000 people every year. The three things that I'd like to share with you, which I think align strongly with democratic principles, are that we've played a leading role in establishing the immigration unit in the last 2 years. As you may know, there are over 1,000 detained immigrants without lawyers in the immigration court. We now, through our staff of 8 full-time immigration attorneys and 3 support staff, provide representation to about 300 of the 1,000, so we have a long way to go. And I appreciate the support of the Democratic Central Committee, who voted to support by resolution our efforts. Secondly, we've been on the forefront of bail reform, and we're handling the case that's going to be heard before the California Supreme Court, People versus Humphrey. I'm very active now in opposing the legislation that's been offered, the so-called bail reform, because it's essentially been co-opted by judges. So if you want to talk to me more about that, I will. And finally, racial justice has been a huge issue of ours, and I've been training public defenders around the country to litigate those issues. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions from DCCC members?
your record is so well known. I'm not going to bother you about that, but I am curious about your professional critique of Crazy Rich Asians. What did you think?
You know, I went to the film expecting not to like it. As you know, I'm a filmmaker myself and have been involved in this whole debate around the images of people of color. But I liked it. I thought it was well done, and hopefully it'll be a start.
It's just like the other form. My understanding, well, maybe you can tell from my understanding from the paper today, there's really no criteria for judges to decide, so it's up to their own. That's what it sounds
I
like.
mean, yeah, we've been working on bail reform for some time. It was a great bill that was introduced by Bob Hertzberg last year, and it essentially provided a very rational decision-making process involving risk assessment. Because as you know now, it's based on the amount of money you have. And the governor, the chief justice got together, and I think the bill that they've come up with is an abomination, because it essentially gives all the power to judges to decide who is low, medium, high risk, who's going to be released. It allows counties to make their own determination. That's one of the reasons we have so many people of color and poor people. 85% of people in jail are there, not because they've been convicted of a crime, but because they can't afford bail.
Thank you.
Hey, Mary.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for coming to the premiere of Crazy Rich Asians. I'm supported the Italy Democratic Club, so thank you very much for that. I appreciate your financial support. And also, for any audience members who really want a piece of memorabilia from this time, I do have extra posters in the movie, which I'll put in the back.
Thank you. Yes.
I hate to use Facebook as a news source, but they really just, I mean, Facebook doesn't create their own news other than about Facebook, but you know, they aggregate news from other sources, and a lot of the news are rather paltry. And I just want to know, since you're in this position, what is actually the state of the San Francisco in terms of crime? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Violent crime versus property crimes and all that. What is the situation? And these things about being too lenient on certain criminals and things like that. What is that? You know, what's the bottom line?
First of all, are we Facebook friends?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
Well,
I'll friend you, because I post all the time on these issues.
Okay, maybe
I was,
I can hear from
I
that.
was just on KQED last week debating Heather Knight on the story she did about, you know, the gentleman who had been arrested 8 times for auto burglary. And the criticism was that he's getting off lightly because the judge was going to give him 7 years probation, suspended sentence, and probation. My point is, if you have a 20-year-old, this young man, 20 years old, happens to be African American, what's that going to do to send him to prison for 7 years? You know, I have personally talked to a lot of folks charged with auto burglary, and most of the folks, of course you have brings of people doing it out there, but most of the people that are doing it are just doing it to survive. And not to say that that's an excuse for it happening, but it's the root cause of it is the economic disparities that we have in the city. And that's why I favor, we have a program called the Young Adult Court, and we've been successful in finding jobs for young people, primarily kids of color who are getting arrested for auto burglary. We almost have 100% success rate. You can get them a job, you know, usually in the service industry, the restaurant industry, and keep them out of trouble. So that's what I'm trying to advocate more than just a punitive approach.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
So we are going to be hearing from candidates for the next race for District 2 Supervisor, and just as a reminder, as a format, we'll have 2 minutes for presentations and 3 minutes for Q&A, with prioritization for each of we'll see members to ask questions first, and then members of the other Democratic clubs can then ask questions. So the first candidate that we'll invite up is Nick Josephowitz.
Thank you very much. My name's Nick Josephowitz. I live with my wife and my 2 young twin boys, Ben and Alec, in Pacific Heights. And we feel really lucky to be raising them in this incredible community. But we're also really frustrated. The city government hasn't done more to deal with the big issues that we're facing, whether it's the level of street homelessness or how expensive it is to raise a family here or even just exist in San Francisco, or how difficult it is to get around. And it just feels like if we keep on electing the same old people to the same old positions, we're going to keep on getting the same old results. And right now it really feels that on the Board of Supervisors, good enough isn't good enough. We need better. So I thought that I would take this opportunity to talk a bit about, how many of you here are from D2? Just a quick one, and someone I'm running against, okay? So maybe for this audience, I won't talk a lot about just the specifics that I think a neighborhood supervisor needs to work on in D2, but I'll talk about what I think we can collaborate on between D2 and some of the other districts that are maybe facing even more extreme versions of what's happening in District 2. And so I want to start with toxics. So District 2 has a long legacy of toxic pollution with the manufactured gas plants in the marina, which PG&E has failed to clean up, and that would be something that I would really focus on as supervisors, holding PG&E to cleaning that up. But it's not enough just to do that in District 2, because we know that right now the greatest toxic waste site that we're seeing in the city that hasn't been cleaned up is at Hunters Point. And as District 2 supervisor, the children that have grown up in Hunters Point are just as important as the children that have grown up in the marina. So I would work not only to make sure that PG&E is cleaning up the mess that it left and that its predecessor companies left in the marina, but I would spend just as much energy making sure that we're cleaning up at Hunters Point and holding Tetra Tech and the US Navy accountable for really delivering on their obligations there. Fine? Okay.
Do we have any questions from DCCC members that are here today? Member Jesus.
Hi.
Hi, so I already talked to you about this, but we talked about BART getting all this money, and I told you I was disabled for a few weeks in the beginning of the year, and the escalators were still a problem, and so were the elevators. I never, in the 6 weeks I was removed, I never got to get on an elevator because there was anyone ever there to let me on. So maybe you could explain the escalator situation and the elevator situation, and overall safety on BART.
Thank you for that question, Petra. So when I got on the BART board, and Bevan knows this as well as anybody else, we have 177 escalators. The average age of our escalators is 37 years old. The average useful life of an escalator is 12 to 15 years. So we have this kind of legacy of broken infrastructure. And when I got on the BART board, this was a real concern of mine. So I made sure, I led the efforts to raise the $3.5 billion BART bond, and I made sure that we had enough money in that BART bond allocated to escalators so that we could replace all the escalators on Market Street in Mission and in downtown Oakland. And that's going to make a huge impact. I also worked really closely with Director Dufty and Director Simon to bring in Hunters Point Family Services to act as elevator attendants at Civic Center and Powell, and it's transformed the elevators there, both in terms of the quality of ride in the elevator as well as the safety and how often they break down. That's a pilot program. It's worked incredibly well. It's taken folks who are often coming out of jail and giving them a good job, and one of the great joys to me of that is that you talk to them and they're applying for full-time positions at BART as train drivers or as station agents, and that's something that I would work really hard to try and expand beyond Howland Civic Center, which are our worst set stations, to other stations like the ones in the Mission, like the rest of the ones on Market Street.
Member Goliath.
I'm probably going to be a little bit of a broken record on this today, but can you talk about your position on Our City, Our Home ballot measure?
Yeah.
And if you're not supporting it, how do you plan on funding housing and homeless services in San Francisco if elected to the board?
Yeah, so I think it's clear that we need more resources around homelessness. I was hoping that when we met last week at the Milk Club, I said I was waiting for the controller's report because I've been very involved in trying to raise a regional scale affordable housing bond of sort of a really large, at a really high number because of the role I played at MTC and at BART and elsewhere. And I was hoping the controller's report would help me better understand how gross receipts tax, how this type of gross receipts tax would work. Came out on Wednesday, didn't help me at all. So I'm currently neutral on that bill. It's clear that we need new revenue. I want to understand the gross receipts tax implications better.
Any other questions?
Can I just quickly finish by like an extra minute?
It's already time.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, thank you all so much, and I really appreciate you taking time to listen to me.
Thank you. Catherine Stephanie. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and what motivates me to do what I do. You know, I was an aide to District 2 for 9 years because I absolutely love my community. I love public service. I've always been compelled by an urgent need to improve the lives of those around me. And I have been devoted to my community for a long time. Also, I was asked to be the county clerk in 2016 because that department was struggling and they were not treating our transgender community in a way that they deserved with our city ID program. And when they thought about someone to run the county clerk's office, Naomi Kelly thought of me. And I went down to the county clerk's office and I did what they asked me to do. I turned that department around. I absolutely led with kindness, with firm expectations that anyone who walked through that door deserved dignity and respect. And the CBOs that we worked with knew that I turned that department around, and it meant so much to me. When I left the county clerk's office, they were crying, I was crying. I built an incredible team there, and I did so with kindness. I started my career as a prosecutor at age 25, straight out of law school, and I loved that job. It was great, but it wasn't the exact fit for me. I knew I did not want to lock up people for the rest of my life. I knew I didn't believe in the death penalty, so I had no desire to be on the homicide team. And there was a defining moment for me when I was a prosecutor. I got called into my supervisor's office, and he said to me, you know, I was just talking to a few public defenders, and they said they really like working with you because you're reasonable. And I thought that was a compliment. I was so excited. I said, that's great. He said, no, you're not tough enough. You need to be tougher. And, you know, I thought then at age 25, I thought that was a weakness, that I was too nice, too kind, but it actually has been a great source of strength for me. I then went to real estate litigation, and I hated that because I wasn't serving the public. I wasn't doing what I loved doing. I went back to school, and I want to be part of the solution here in San Francisco. I want to work with my party, and I want to work with my colleagues to be part of the solution and take what I bring, which is love and care of my community. Thank you.
Any questions from DCCC members?
What's the biggest difference from being a board aide to being a supervisor? What's the experience been like making this change?
I think, you know what, for me is, when I was a board aide, everybody really liked me. And now that I'm a supervisor, I don't know. It's a little bit easier for people to think, you know, to make different determinations about who I am. So, yeah.
Member Maxwell and then
Member Maxwell first.
There's been a lot of, well, recently in the paper about your real estate issues and woes and tenants. Could you clarify that or speak to that for us, please?
Definitely, yeah. The issue with not my building, but my husband and I own a flat, 50% with my in-laws, and Cliff has lived upstairs for over 30 years. He's been in our life for a long time. His kids have babysat my kids call his son Uncle Jamie. It's a cordial relationship. We had a remodel that went south with our first contractor, and he was never evicted. He lives there now at the same rent. He is not going to be evicted at any time. He's welcome to live there for the rest of his life. He's my in-laws tenant. He pays rent to my in-laws. They are the ones who manage it. But the thing about this is just, I read the complaint, and if you don't know me and you read that complaint, I can see how you can form a negative opinion about me. That's not who I am. And we are working this out. We tried to settle it in May, but the plaintiff's attorneys canceled that mediation. We tried to settle it yesterday, actually, and the plaintiff's attorneys said they couldn't be present for that mediation or that settlement. And we have another one coming up in September, but we intend to settle it. We are cordial with Cliff. He lives upstairs. It's not what it looks like on paper, and everything is getting worked out and everything is getting settled.
Member Galata?
Thanks, Supervisor. Can you talk about your position on our city, our home ballot measure?
Definitely,
Please.
yes, because, obviously I did come out with that quote, and, I said I'm not convinced yet.
And for me, just understanding that this is the largest tax in San Francisco's history, and I want to be smart about it. I want to understand what we're going to do with the extra money. I sat down with Jenny Friedenbach last week, actually this week, for an hour, and we went over things. And that's how I am. I'm someone who looks at all the information before I make a determination whether or not I'm going to support something. And I'm waiting for the controller's letter on this. But when it comes to what I didn't get to in my opening, because I didn't plan it right, obviously. But I was on the board of directors of the Homeless Prenatal Program, and I was in awe of Martha Ryan and what she's done over 30 years, because she captured upon that feeling, when a woman is pregnant and wants to turn her life around, and basically had those clients. Time on that. Anyway, so I'm still making up my mind, but I have not come out against it. I'm still learning.
No, I kind of asked already.
I wanted to ask you.
Sorry.
Number
Number 11, 10.
Sorry. I know that you've been a tireless advocate on gun control really for a long time, and I know you've done a lot of work with Moms Demand Action. Can you just talk a little bit about what you've done with that?
Yeah, definitely. For over about 20 years now, I've been a gun violence prevention advocate. After Columbine, I was in the Brady campaign. After Aurora, I did pro bono legal work for the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. And then after San Diego, Moms Demand Action was formed. I was a local group leader. I built up a team. I built coalitions with people like Maddie Scott and Rudy Corpus with United Players. I basically worked with all communities to build coalitions around common sense gun reform. We do education on telling moms to ask before your kids go on a play date, and we've done legislative work on the offense and defense, and also the cultural. We complained to Dear Abby when Dear Abby said, you shouldn't ask if there's a gun in the home because that might make someone feel bad. And then we did a social media blitz on her, and she changed her mind. So it's changing the culture, it's fighting legislatively, and it's educating people. And I've been involved with that for a long time. I'm very proud of that work.
Hi, Member Love, may I ask a request? Just going forward for the speakers, can we give a 30-second heads up before the 2-minute ends?
Sure.
And a 30-second heads up before the 3-minute ends? Because I just feel like we're cutting off our speakers without much notice, and we want to give them enough time to know when their time's in.
Okay, we'll give a heads up for the next speakers.
The next candidate is Skylar Hudak.
Hi guys, how are you? Thank you all so much. It's really an honor to be in this building, which is such an important institution in San Francisco, asking the Democrats of San Francisco for their endorsement. My name is Skylar Hudak. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area. I have grown up with the Bay Area. I have seen the changes that have happened in San Francisco over the last 30 plus years. And as we know, some of those changes have been great, and some of them have really kind of created a tale of two cities environment. And we see this every day. We see incredible wealth and prosperity and economic growth and an economy that in some ways is the envy of the world. And on the other side, we see working families struggling to stay in the city that they serve every single day. I'm the only renter in the District 2 race, and this is a district, in District 2, that is 70% renters. And I'm the only candidate in the race right now that knows what it's like to struggle to stay in San Francisco. I love this city, and I am very committed to being here because I've spent every day of my adult life serving and giving back in one form or another. I started as an intern for Mayor Gavin Newsom, and then I went to go work for public education policy and raise money for our public education system, especially during the economic downturn, securing funding for the rainy day funds that kept San Francisco Unified School District moving forward. After that, I went to go be statewide field director for Jerry Brown. I worked alongside a lot of you as the SFYD, the SF Democrats and the SFYD. We worked really closely to fight 8 years ago to make sure that Meg Whitman did not take over our state. And I know that California is stronger for that. And then after that, after working with other elected officials in San Francisco, like City Attorney Dennis Ferreira, I moved on to go do some work in the private sector because I realized that one of the things that we need to do is we need to start to build those bridges. And we need to bring that private sector in and say it's really, really critical that you contribute to this community. So Happy to take your questions.
Any questions from DCCC members? Member Galata?
Since I've asked this to each candidate, your position on Our City, Our Home ballot measure.
Yeah, again, as someone who does struggle to stay in San Francisco, as someone who knows what that's like, I believe that we need to find new revenue streams to build more housing. I'm currently neutral on the bill because I haven't seen the controller's report, and I want to understand what the financial impact is. I remember being here in 2010 and watching the economic downturn and what an impact that had on all San Franciscans. I remember seeing plenty of friends pack up and move back home to wherever they were from, even if it was surrounding Bay Area counties because they couldn't afford to stay in the city. But I do know that we need more revenue. We need to find new revenue streams, and those are likely hand in hand with a lot of the companies that have seen so much prosperity in the past several years.
Any questions? Members?
The one other thing, the one thing I needed to talk about was homelessness. It's my #1 issue, SF General. Does anyone have any questions about subacute beds, treatment for severe mental illness in San Francisco? I think it's one of the most critical things that we need to be talking about. So please don't hesitate. I have a flyer back there. My cell phone number is on it. Please reach out to me. I want to meet with you individually. Anything I can do to just sit down and talk to you and hear your concerns. Yeah, hi.
Sure, I'd love to hear your plan about,
Yeah.
mental illness and, kind of,
SF General.
yeah.
Right.
And, is that the only place where we should be treating mental illness?
No, God no. We need to be, San Francisco has a citywide mental health network, but we're not currently investing in it in the meaningful way that we should be investing in it. The #1 thing that we could do to significantly impact homelessness around the city of San Francisco would be to significantly increase the number of acute psychiatric beds and subacute psychiatric beds. This is a really important thing. We have a humanitarian crisis on our streets right now, and I have seen this evolve over the last 30 years, and it's unconscionable. We can no longer, as San Franciscans, our collective conscience can no longer bear what's happening on our streets. So I would love to talk more about this. I believe that we need to significantly invest in this citywide mental health network and stop using our prisons and our jails as places to put people who are struggling with addiction and who are severely mentally ill. It is unconscionable. It is inhumane. Yes.
I know you're asking people to vote for you #1. Are you voting for anyone #2?
I have not decided who I'm going to be voting for #2. For those of you who remember, 8 years ago in this race in District 2, we thought we were going to see a very different candidate emerge. So I think that ranked choice voting is a great thing. I think it makes us stronger. And I believe that in District 2, one of the things that is going to make a really big difference is, essentially the way that we... Oh, okay, never mind.
Wrap up that sentence.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, in District 2, I think it's going to be really critical that we look at who has a plan for the entire city. I think we're going to need representatives who are really involved in the community, but who are determined to make an impact on citywide issues. There you go. Thanks, guys, so much.
Thanks for those of you who have joined us since we started. We are live streaming on sfdemocrats.org. We also have the candidate questionnaires online if you want to take a look. The next candidates are going to be from the City College San Francisco Board of Trustees race. The first candidate I'd like to bring up is Thea Selby. For this one, it's 2-minute presentation and 2 minutes for Q&A. We're going to try to give some advance notice to our speakers so they know when their time is about to be up. Thea Selby.
Oh, she's coming. Okay.
So it'll be 2-minute presentations and then 2 minutes for Q&A. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Thea Selby. I am running for City College of San Francisco Board of Trustees. This will be my second go-round. You guys were kind enough and I'm honored enough to receive your endorsement last time. I'm running because although we've done fantastic work, we've hired a new permanent chancellor. We've gotten our accreditation for 7 years. We all passed Free City College, which has allowed our tuition to increase. There's still a lot of work to be done. And I'd like to be there for the next 4 years to make sure that we accomplish all the things that we still need to do. Like, for example, let's start with Free City College. Free City College is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but we're not receiving our fair share of the money that's being raised from that transfer tax. We get about 10% of the transfer tax. I think we should be getting closer to 50%. And I know there are a lot of people at the Board of Supervisors who agree with me, so we want to fight for that. What would we do with that additional money? Well, we could do things like transit passes for our students. We could help with books. We might even be able to subsidize some housing, and we know that their housing is a big problem for our students, as frankly for our faculty, the new faculty that are coming in. I'd also like to make sure we have a lot of housing projects that are happening right now, a lot of facilities planning. I'd like to make sure that that gets done sustainably, and that we make sure that there is housing for everyone that we can possibly get. We have 500 beds that we're very excited about. There's probably more to be done in other campuses. Finally, I want to make sure that we increase that enrollment. We are 10% of the 40% that we need to be. So we have another 75%, 3/4 more to go. We have all sorts of great ideas on ways to do that, everything from block scheduling to the things that I talked about with Free City, making Free City available as it originally was for people who work in San Francisco, not just people who live here. Thank you.
From DCCC members.
So when you say housing, what do you mean, like dorms or the apartments? What do you mean?
So we have negotiated with the developer of Balboa Reservoir, which I know was one of your questions, 500 beds. It's not 500 dorms, but it is 500 beds for students. So that, and we're not paying for that, they are. So that is kind of a community benefit that we were able to negotiate. That's an example of what we might be able to do. The Chancellor is talking about, what I was talking about with Free City is not necessarily building more, but subsidizing housing within San Francisco, which I know is done in other cases. If we could do that, then we could also help our students, because as we all know, a 2-bedroom apartment in this place is about $2,500 on a good day. So any kind of subsidizing that we can do with the rents that are already there, we'd also like to do. We're building housing at 33 Goff, which is one of our buildings now, and it's very possible we'd also be building housing in other places.
So you mentioned that you guys are only getting 10% of the transfer tax?
About.
Where's the 90% going?
Ah.
And then, also, when you say you want 50%, can like just briefly address some of the other things you can do with the extra, make it housing?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so 90% at the moment is going into it's all going into the general fund. And then we have a memorandum of understanding that was negotiated between the City College and the Board of Trustees that allows us to get about $5.8 million a year. 50 million is about what was brought in this year. So because the people of San Francisco voted for Proposition W because they thought it was going to Free City, this is why I think 50 or 50 plus 1% is about right. What we would do with it are some of the things that I mentioned before. It's everything having to do with students. What I didn't mention are some of the things that we don't get now are counselors.
I need to be able to hear the rest of the question answered.
You can answer the rest of the sentence.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so we have the whole infrastructure for additional students. Anybody who has gone to City College perhaps and has tried to see counselors has seen the lines, unfortunately, are very long. Students get frustrated and they leave. So one thing that is not in the money now, we received $500,000 at the very beginning of City College for quote-unquote infrastructure. Well, we really need significantly more than that if we're going to take care of the students who are coming in and make sure they get, among other things, additional money. So the money doesn't just come from City College. There's Pell Grants, there's all this other money that our students could be accessing, but because they don't go to see the counselor, they don't access that money. So that's sort of a win-win for both of us. We're able to leverage the Free City money to get other monies as well for our students.
Thank you so much.
My next candidate,
Victor Oliveri.
2-minute presentation and then 2 minutes for Q&A.
Thank you. My name is Victor Oliveri. I'm a first-time candidate here running for the Community College Board, so I'll spend the most of the 2 minutes letting you know a little bit about my background, where I'm from, what I've done. I was born and raised in Spain. I came here when I was 12 years old without speaking much English. I was basically born in the shadow of the Franco regime, so I grew up in an environment that was very reactionary, very progressive. So moving to the States was a big shock, especially not speaking English and moving to Arizona. Over the last 20 years, I've experienced a lot of moving around the country. I've experienced a lot of interaction with higher education issues, primarily because not only was I the first one in my family to figure out that I wanted to get a higher education, but I attended community college. I struggled to make it. I struggled to graduate high school out of public school. I joined the military so I could pay for school. I received Pell Grants. I was one of those students in need that worked 3-4 different jobs before I went on to get a 4-year degree, transferred to get a 4-year degree, went on to join active duty after 9/11, went on to get a PhD, teach at the university level, and then go on to be a fellow at the University of Edinburgh, go on to teach at the University of Florida, go on to be a UC administrator at UC Riverside, before coming here to San Francisco, becoming someone who works in higher education issues with veterans, specifically working in workforce development and tech. So I've experienced the whole gamut of what it's like to be one of these students who needs a community college, someone who's a faculty member who has to deal with a staunch budget, administrators who really want to push the mission one way, and we definitely have to care about our students. But I also know what it's like to be an administrator, and I know what it's like to have to work with groups, balance the needs of the community versus the students versus the faculty. And that's the type of experience that I want to bring to City College. I want to bring an experience that looks at these issues with MOUs in the city and realizes the moral compass is our students. That works with our faculty to make sure that we're reminding ourselves of the mission that we first have foremost as an academic mission. But at the same time works with the local companies to strengthen the ability for our students to make it, so that we have internships and fellowships and jobs that they can work on as we put themselves through school and going on to the next level. Thank you.
Any questions from members of the digital seat?
I'll just go back to the housing issue. So how would you propose being housing for students? We in the newspapers, a lot of our students are homeless.
Yes. One of the things that we are working on is about the water reservoir, and while we've done a good job there, I think we can do a lot better. The issue of getting those 500 beds has really been a costly one, primarily because City College is exchanging land for something that the developers should be doing already. This is a community that's right across the street from City College. How are we not getting to the point that this could be an academic community in which that 50% of affordable housing could be earmarked for faculty members, staff, and our students that could walk across the street, get rid of all the problems that we have with traffic and parking in the area, and have a community that the community itself can embrace. So that's, in my mind, that's something that we missed a little bit on the point. The other aspect of that is that we have a lot of properties throughout the city that are already serving the community through the academic mission. I think we need to become a city college that is really an urbanist college, where every single building does have faculty and staff and housing for students. That our lower levels are built so that we can service the community with rooms like this one where community members can come and do stuff on the weekends and in the evenings when we don't have classes, but also that our higher levels have classes and housing that we need. Ultimately, City College can be an urbanist college. We just need to make sure that we prioritize that in every step of the way. And that's the vision that I have for City College.
Any other questions from members? Any questions from the public? Oh.
Do you support trans rights throughout all of the school systems, public schools, college board?
Absolutely. Growing up in Spain, I grew up with equal rights, marriage, LGBTQ rights. All this stuff came in so much earlier than anywhere else in Europe. I'm the only person that I know right now that's in a single-payer healthcare system. I've been in one my entire life. When I was in Spain, when I was in the military, when I'm here as a veteran, as a disabled veteran. I support equal rights, human rights, civil rights, housing rights, trans rights, all these things that most people take for granted. I've been a member of a community that's been part of that and has been supporting that and has been fighting literally at times by putting my life on the line. So I absolutely support trans rights.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite up John Rizzo.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very proud of my record at City College. I've spent the past few years winning our long-term accreditation, fighting a rogue accrediting agency that was bent on closing the college. I've worked for free tuition for San Francisco that is now a model in the country, being talked about all over the country. And now I'm working to build City College for the future and to have City College be part of the solution to San Francisco's problems. For instance, on housing, a resolution that I co-authored with Bridget Davila has led to the housing that the developer at Balboa is now building for City College. And this is going to be 500 units of student, or 500 beds of student housing, as Thea mentioned, but also up to 200 units of faculty housing on the SFPUC land. And that's a trade for relocating their parking garage to our land. So what it means is that where there was going to be a parking garage, there's now going to be faculty housing. And I think that's a great thing. This is a good start for City College. We have no housing currently. This is a great start, but I believe we can build up to 3,000 units of housing. And I've asked the administration to look into this at our properties all over the city. And that's just one example of how City College can be a solution. We're growing our programs. I really believe that we can create a cannabis degree at City College to have good paying jobs in the burgeoning cannabis industry as a business. It's a very complex business. And we have a great business school, we have a horticulture school, and we have a pharmacy tech school. I think we can combine these all to have a really great cannabis program, and that's one of the things I'm pushing right now. I think I'm out of time, so I'll take questions.
Great. Member Campos and then Member Maxwell.
We all care about City College, and we know that about the rogue agency that tried to shut it down. But there were issues of mismanagement that were pointed out, and you were not only on the board, but at times were the chair of the board when that was going on. Do you take any responsibility for any of that almost closed down this institution?
Yeah, I do take some responsibility, but as the San Francisco Chronicle wrote when they endorsed me 4 years ago, they said that I'm a known critic of the administration. I first ran as a reformer to fix some of the problems that I saw at City College. And the Chronicle said that I will be vital to rebuilding the college after the accreditation crisis. I was very honored to have the Chronicle say that, but I did. That comes from my record of criticizing publicly the administrations throughout. I think what happened was that the accrediting agency saw some problems, and what we deserved was a warning. Other colleges were getting a warning for the kind of issues that we were having. Instead, they decided to shut us down, and that's well documented and well known. But we are in a great place right now. We have a clean bill of health from FICMAT, the state auditing commission, and we're in a place now to build and grow and thrive for our students.
You mentioned faculty housing and student beds.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean? You didn't say student housing, you said student beds.
Yeah, because they're not apartment. It's not like units. You can't say 500 units because it's more like dormitory style with it'll be with a shared kitchen, like semi-dormitory. So there won't be a kitchen for each unit. So we say beds instead of units because it's more dormitory. The faculty housing will be ordinary affordable housing. So we can say up to 200 units of faculty housing.
So these dorm-like, are they two rooms with two beds?
that hasn't been determined yet, exactly the configuration. It'll be some sort of like either like typical college housing or more like graduate school housing, something like that. Those details haven't been worked out, but we do have the location set and that kind of thing. Okay, thank you very much.
Bridget Davila. 2-minute presentation, 2 minutes for Q&A.
Okay.
And we have someone will give you a warning.
Okay, all right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here. I just ran from the D11 interviews right now, so I really appreciate the time you're all taking up to hear all the candidates. So I'm Bridget Davila, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees right now. And I would like to keep our great team, including me, going on the Board of Trustees. So we're all running, the 3 of us are running for re-election. And we've accomplished a lot. And I didn't hear everything John said, but I'm sure I'm echoing what he said. We've gotten through accreditation. We've gotten through not having a chancellor, not having a permanent chancellor. We've gotten through budget crises. So, and we've kind of moved through that survival mode, and now we're in thrive mode. And I'm really excited about it because some of the things we're going to do, I came in on the tail end of what John was talking about with trying to leverage more faculty housing. That's been one of my big issues also because we're facing a big crisis. Faculty cannot afford to live here in San Francisco anymore, and we really need to do something about that. And it's an equity issue because if we want to be able to recruit faculty that reflect our students, we're not competitive with other community colleges. So the other thing that we're doing is, well, that I'm earmarked as one of my top priorities, is to close the achievement gap. We have a chronic achievement gap, and I think we have some great plans to close it. So the other thing is improving our physical plant at Ocean Campus and at our other sites and creating a sustainable campus. I felt like you were going to look that up in a minute. Okay, well, that's close enough. Does anybody have any questions?
So you talked about the achievement gap, that's something no one talked about. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a chronic achievement gap. This happens in K-12, our K-12 system, as well as the community college. And it's mostly Latino and African American students. And the achievement gap is whether they're able to graduate or get certificates or move forward or not. And this is not unique to San Francisco. It's a nationwide problem where people languish in non-credit classes for years and never really get anywhere to show for it. So that's something I really want to address, and I think we have the ability to do that now. And we have an assist from the state. The state has already said that we have to start offering credit classes instead of non-credit classes, and we just need to support our students so that they can get through those classes.
Any other questions from members?
Not a question, I just wanted to thank you for letting us know how to actually pronounce your last name.
Oh.
I have heard so many variations on that.
Me too. But my favorite is the one with the apostrophe in it. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're going to be hearing from candidates from the District 4 supervisor race now, and the first candidate up is Gordon Marr. For this, we'll have 2 minutes for presentation and 3 minutes for Q&A. Gordon Marr.
Thanks, Jen. Good morning, everyone. I'm Gordon Marr, running for the Board of Supervisors in District 4. I first moved to San Francisco in 1988 after graduating from UC Berkeley, and I was really drawn by the diversity of our communities and the rich history of political activism in our city. My wife and I moved to the Sunset District in 2005, primarily to raise our daughter, who's now about to enter 8th grade at Hoover Middle School on Monday. But everything that drew me to this great city as a young person 30 years ago and to the family-friendly Sunset District 13 years ago really feels at risk of being radically changed or wiped out by the affordability crisis and the dramatic economic changes that have been playing out in the city over the past decade. So I'm running for the Board of Supervisors to ensure that anyone, regardless of income or social condition, is able to continue to live, work, raise a family, and thrive in our city. And I've been fighting this fight for over 25 years as a community and labor organizer in our city. I started out organizing immigrant families as executive director of the Chinese Progressive Association, where I led efforts to improve living and working conditions in Chinatown. Over the past 8 years as executive director of Jobs for Justice, I've continued to lead efforts to raise the minimum wage to $15 and to create the nation's first ever Retail Workers Bill of Rights. And I was a leader in the community campaign to save City College from closure and to make it tuition free for all San Franciscans. But for me, this is also personal. I think about my daughter and her friends and worry whether they'll be able to continue to live in the city that they're being raised in. And I think about my daughter coming to visit me at my office in the Tenderloin, stepping over needles and waste on the sidewalks, and so many of our community members living on the streets. In a center of such innovation and immense wealth, I believe we can house our homeless and clean our streets. We can stop displacement and expand affordable housing. We can care for our seniors, students, and anyone in need. And we can create a San Francisco that works for all of us. So I want to thank the DCCC for your incredible leadership for our party and our city, and it would be a great honor to receive your endorsement. Thank you.
Questions from members? DCCC members? Member Galata?
I'm curious how you think neighborhoods like the Sunset can be a part of addressing our affordable housing crisis in the city.
Well,
Very expensive. The rent.
Well, I don't, so I think, you know, we obviously need to build more housing and more affordable housing for the middle class, the working class, for families, and everyone for the market, the housing market currently doesn't serve. And the Sunset and the West Side, I think we need to do our fair share, you know, of creating new housing. And I think there are strategies, innovative strategies for housing development that would work in the Sunset District on the West Side. So, like for example, the teacher housing project, right, that's going up in the outer Sunset. That's a fantastic example, and I'd like to see that replicated in other publicly owned sites in the Sunset, and accessory dwelling units. You know, expanding those and looking at ways not just to streamline the process, but even incentivize homeowners to add accessory dwelling units. I think can bring a lot more units online on the West Side and in Sunset. And those are strategies that I think would be very much supported by my neighbors. You know, having lived there for 13 years, I really understand, you know, that, you know, people in the Sunset on the West Side really value our, you know, our quiet sort of almost suburbs in the city quality of life. But given that, there's still ways we can add housing, and I'm committed to doing that.
Member Shea?
Thank you. Building affordable housing is a really long-term project. It could go beyond your tenure if you're elected of 8 years. So for the acute problem of cleaning up quality of life issues such as stepping over human waste and needles and so forth, do you agree or disagree with Mayor Farrell's beginning to clean up the encampments and Leonard Reed continues that program? Do you support or not support that in the short term?
Well, I think that, you know, the sort of get tough on the homeless and cleaning up the encampments work has already moved forward, and that's already starting to have an impact. You know, definitely in places like the Mission and the Central City, where those were most of those were concentrated. I think we're now, you know, moving to a new phase where, you know, more and more of the homeless population is being pushed out into other neighborhoods. We definitely see a growing population of homeless in District 4 and the Sunset District. And I think the next homeless count is going to show, you know, a large increase in that. So I think we need to look at, you know, new ways, you know, or ways to address the current reality of the homeless situation. And we're seeing more people living in vehicles, for example, rather than in tents on the street.
Any other questions?
Yeah. There was quite a rumor about the possibility of opening cannabis dispensaries in the Sunset. One failed, one did open, but there's been a lot of talk about that too. What's your position on D4 and cannabis dispensaries?
Well, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Susan. Obviously, cannabis dispensaries has been a hot button issue in the Sunset and other neighborhoods in the city. I think my basic position is as a community organizer for over 25 years in the city, I'm very committed to ensuring that our neighborhood residents, have a voice in any important decision that's going to impact the quality of life, whether it's a cannabis dispensary, new development, changes to the El Terabel line. So I'm committed to ensuring that neighbors have a voice and that their district supervisor will listen to that, in making decisions. So on cannabis dispensaries, I do feel like the ones that were not that were rejected, in the appeal process, the dispensary owners were not able to win support from the immediate neighbors there. So that's what happened. So I think if a cannabis dispensary is trying to open in the Sunset District, it's the responsibility is on them, to convince the neighbors that they're going to be a good fit for the neighborhood. Thanks, everyone.
We have Trevor McNeil, and in his stead, we have a proxy, Sarah Montoya, his partner.
Hi, so yes, I'm here. So I'm here on behalf of my husband, Trevor McNeil. So as a working family, when one person runs for office, it's like the whole family's doing it. I do have some notes, so forgive me as I kind of reference them. So Trevor is a San Francisco native. He grew up in San Francisco, and we've lived in the Sunset. He's lived in the Sunset almost all of his adult life, and that's where we've been for the past decade. He's a third-generation San Francisco public school teacher. Take a deep breath. Start over. Obviously, he's the politician. He has a strong personal understanding of the struggles of a middle-class working family. He also comes from a long line of union members, and he's served as his union site representative and former organizer with AFSCME Local 3299. Beyond that, he's always been dedicated to public service and activism. He's volunteered for the San Francisco Democratic Party since he was 14 years old. At 24, he was the youngest member elected to the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee, and served as its vice chair. And he's been a board member of the San Francisco Young Democrats, the Irish American Democratic Club, Democratic Action, and the Inner Sunset Park Neighborhood Association. In 2014, Supervisor Katie Tang appointed Trevor to the city's Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee. He's currently a member of the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Advisory Committee. Oh, 30 seconds left. He's different from the rest of the candidates in the race because of his deep personal understanding of experience and lack of affordability in San Francisco. Our family of 5 lived in a 1-bedroom apartment for a year, and we only recently moved into a 2-bedroom. And so that's a huge part of what Trevor is dedicated to and interested in. And also, Trevor would like to ask the party to really consider 2 endorsements, just because there are so many candidates. It's the obligation of the DCCC to educate the community, and there's more than one candidate that's qualified and capable, and I believe that Trevor is one of those, and so does he. That's why he's running. My time's up.
Do you have any questions?
I just want to say my partner wouldn't come and speak for me if I were running for something like that.
So what is Trevor's biggest issue in D4?
We really do think his biggest issue, and I agree with him, is the affordability of housing, especially for families, being able to stay in San Francisco. And so that's one of the biggest issue, I would say.
Who is your guest?
Oh yeah, this is Walden. Can you say hi, Walden?
Hi, Walden.
Hi, how are you?
This is Walden, and we've got the twins in the hallway.
And does Trevor have any plans for families with children in the district?
Yes, and I mean that's one of the, again, with the housing situation, there needs to be more affordable housing that meets the needs of families with kids. I don't want to speak too much, but one of the things we talk about is the reality that when we were looking for affordable housing, so many of the units were studios and 1-bedrooms. And so if you have more than one kid, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And really investing in the city and getting property that you can own and invest in and that your family can be stable in, that has enough room for all of you to grow into, is a big issue.
Okay, so we're waiting for some of the other candidates to show up. So let's take a 5-minute break. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you. Just in time. Let's just give you a card. She's early. Let's have her first. I think if that's okay. No? Or do you want to wait? Okay. All right. So we have Jessica Ho here, and then just going over the format. 2 minutes for presentations and 3 minutes for Q&A, and we have someone up here that will give you a warning for 30 seconds. Jessica Ho.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Ho. I'm running for District 4 Supervisor. I'm currently a legislative aide for Supervisor Katie Pang, and I'm honored to have her endorsement, as well as the endorsement of Assessor Porter Carmen Chu, Mayor London Breed, Senator Scott Wiener, the Alice Democratic Club, and amongst many others. I'm running for supervisor because I want to address homelessness in my district as well as throughout the city. I know this is an issue on the forefront of everyone's minds. I think we need to be looking at creative solutions like Senator Scott Wiener's SB 1045 and trying to find ways in which we can get people off the streets and into services and back on their feet. I don't think it's humane kind of passion to allow anyone to sleep on the cold streets of San Francisco night after night. I'm running for supervisor to find creative solutions for affordable housing. In my district, I think that looks like looking at the vacancies that are in our district. There's over 3,000 units that have not been legalized that are in-laws, and a lot of other vacancies, thousands of them, that if we work with homeowners, we can actually provide more affordable options for renters. I'm running for supervisor because there are a lot of vacancies in my district along with the neighborhood commercial districts, and I think that we need to look at creative solutions there as well to streamline the permitting process and continue the work that Supervisor Katie Pang has already done to try to do that process and make sure it's easier for businesses to open and thrive for years to come. My grandmother immigrated to the Sunset District over 40 years ago to find a better life for herself and her family. And I fell in love with the Sunset District after living there, after graduating from UC Berkeley. And I went to school at UCSF to become a dietitian and had an opportunity to work for Assessor Porter Carmen Chu when she was supervisor, and was really inspired by that. And now I want to be here to serve the community and serve the city and make San Francisco a wonderful place to live for everyone. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to any questions you may have about me or my policies. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Member Campos and then Member Duffy.
Good question. What do you think about Angela Leota's proposal around sanctuary?
It's a very good question. I think that Angela Aliota's proposal looks at providing sanctuary for people, but for people who are who have convicted violent felonies or arson, are people that we really should look at maybe having due process for, which I think due process should be given for everyone.
So do you support it?
I do support it.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I have a quick question and a follow-up. Have you endorsed Josephine Zhao for school board?
I have not officially endorsed Josephine, but I am supportive. And the Josephine I know has is supportive from everyone. I know that she's been very apologetic for the comments she's made. So Josephine I know is very supportive of the community as I am as well.
So I just want to say, and we had a great connect around homelessness, but I'm a parent of a gender expansive child.
Yes.
And to see someone running for office that has so many fingerprints of being transphobic and someone who will be a critic of services and protections for children that are gender expansive, non-binary, or transgender. And I can tell you that in the 7 years that my child went to a public school in San Francisco, we faced a lot of difficulties. So I would tell you that from my personal standpoint, that's not what I'm looking for to come onto the Board of Education. And I appreciate you hearing me say you have not endorsed.
But as for me, I was in the fight against philosophy and really have been a support of the LGBT community and will continue to do so, and will do whatever I can to support LGBTQ communities in San Francisco.
What is your ultimate
I don't know at this time. That's not something that I have, my ultimate career goal is to serve the community. And I think that, for me, I have had experience in the federal, state, local levels of government, as well as nonprofits, in order to be able to have the skill sets to get things done and move things forward in the city. Yeah.
What are some of the ways you think you can increase affordable housing in the district? Is rent control one of the things that is effective or not effective?
I'm in support of rent control. I'm also a renter, and so I think that absolutely we need to be helping renters stay in San Francisco, and I think that's something that is important, and I think it's a lot of issues with our housing in the district is that a lot of homeowners have taken this off the market because they don't feel that they are able to work with renters, and I think that's unfair, and I think we need to be able to bring homeowners to the table so we can open up these units so that we can have thousands more units for people to have these affordable rental options.
What about cost of office?
Well, sorry, one last question. I remember maybe.
Since the lot was out of the room, where do you stand with our CDR home? That's a qualified for that.
Our CDR home.
I'm sorry.
Prop C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So gross receipts.
Oh,
Validation.
I just said it. Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
The next candidate we have is Tran Min. 2 minutes for presentation and 3 minutes for Q&A. Thank you. We'll have someone that'll let you know.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. How are you? Good morning. I appreciate everybody coming out here on a Saturday and for me to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces here, including Tom Shea. You look younger for whatever reason. It's been an incredible journey for us to get to this point. Hi, Susan. How are you? Hi, Mary. How are you? It's been 17 years, actually, for me to get to this point. I'm a Sunset native. My name is Tuan Nguyen. I grew up in the Sunset. The Sunset raised me, essentially. Went to school out at Holy Name, and went to school out at St. Ignatius College Prep. Privileged enough for my parents to send me out there, while my siblings went to public school in Lincoln and AP Giannini right out there. But I still reside out there right now, right around the corner from Pollyanna Ice Cream. And what a fantastic journey it's been. See through all the fogs, and we've been through a lot of political battles to get to this point. And so happy to stand before you today as a candidate running for a supervisor in what I perceive to be one of the most wide open races in years for district supervisor. So to me, I think we're fighting for the soul of the city in San Francisco for many, many different reasons. I've been president of the West Side Democratic Club back in 2010. And I've managed a multitude of campaigns, actually about 15 political and nonprofit campaigns in San Francisco for the last 17 years. And starting with Gavin Newsom's first campaign for mayor, and all the way going through with Fiona Ma's state assembly race, and then from there, managing David Wong's campaign for sheriff, where I started the LGBT deputy sheriff's path. And then also, so really, really happy to work on so many different campaigns, attended a bunch of different meetings, and also met a bunch of different constituents and partnered with a bunch of organizations as well. So I served as my time's up.
Any questions from members?
Yes, Susan.
What was your last political campaign job?
The last political campaign, I worked with Angela Alioto as her West Side field director. And I hopped on board at a very tenuous time when it was a month before the end of the election, but it gave me great insight to working those 583 precincts in San Francisco, and reconnected myself with voters and constituents as well as organizations throughout the city. So I appreciate working with her. I'm still really good friends with Jane and Mark, and wish the very best for London. She moves the city forward. Yes, hi Tom.
Hi, how are you, Juan?
Good.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
So you were out there working the precincts. What do the voters want?
I think the voters really want a connection to City Hall, which I think right now they're looking at moderates versus progressive, right? And that's something that I always was very, very independent from. In choosing my political campaigns that I work on or nonprofit campaigns that I've worked on, I've been offered legislative aid positions. I've been offered other positions to end up at City Hall. I respectfully declined because life happens, and quite frankly, it wasn't the right time for me. So for myself, I think a lot of San Franciscans want independence. They want also someone to stand up to what's going on in City Hall, which is essentially the tech sector getting all these breaks. And quite frankly, the other industries are suffering. The artists, the local musicians, they can't afford to live there anymore. The teachers who want to teach and remain in San Francisco, they can't do that. We all want to obviously build up because of density housing, but the situation is this. I mean, we have to maintain the integrity of the Sunset District. It's a 70,000 person district. And if you're going to build anywhere, you have to build in the main corridors and maybe looking at a 4-story development versus a 5 to 8 story development, which, you know, obviously we saw with SB 827 failed recently. That's not what the residents want. We want to maintain the diversity of San Francisco and the culture of San Francisco, which we're losing very, very quickly because of gentrification.
So we have time for one more question. Okay, sorry. I have a question. Oh, sorry, we have to prioritize some
Okay,
other
so our homes,
our city or home.
homes, where do you stand on that problem?
Oh, I support that. I mean, how can you not support that? I mean, that should be the baseline where we start. You know, potentially a $380 million windfall, and you're talking about 650 or so companies in San Francisco that make at least $25 million. I mean, we have, what is it, a $937 million increase in our city budget to $11.05 billion. This city should have enough. We should not sponsor any type of future legislation that is token legislation. We should deal with the issues that San Francisco has right now. We're a world-class city and we're not doing our part. And we're not asking companies as well as organizations and denominations to do their part to ensure that the homeless issue gets finally addressed. I'm a no excuse type of person. So people have seen and worked with me in the past. They know that the buck stops here. I won't allow that again.
He'll be around for questions, but we are unfortunately time's up for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick 10-minute break, and then after the break, we'll hear from more supervisorial candidates for District 6 and District 8. Thank you. Let's reconvene at 11:20. 11:20. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You know, James, that's my so he hosted, I didn't even know every single time we would
Are we pausing?
Yeah. Okay.